You are not just running a business, you are running an inherited way of being that doesn't serve you. And until you can see it, it will keep running you and preventing you from scaling your business with ease. Today on the podcast, the conversation almost no one in business is having, the mother wound that runs every female-led business. The 4 ways it shows up in how you work, why it caps your revenue, and what it takes to start breaking the inheritance. Settle in, beautiful sister. This is one of the deeper ones. Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to the podcast. Today is one of the deeper conversations we will have on this show, and I invite you to settle in for it. Because what we're talking about today is something almost no one in business circles actually names. And yet it's running underneath most female-led businesses that I have encountered, including at different points my own. I want to talk to you about what we inherit from the women who came before us, from our mothers, from our grandmothers, from the culture that shaped them, and how that inheritance is running your business quietly right now in ways that you may not even be aware of. So let's start with what I actually mean when I say the mother wound, because this phrase gets used a lot, and there are several books written about it. I've read one of them, and I want to be clear about how I'm using it today on this episode. This isn't about whether your mother was loving or absent, or whether she was supportive or critical. The mother wound has nothing necessarily to do with just your mother, but it is something that you inherit. It is a collection of the patterns, the beliefs, the ways of being that were passed down from the women who came before you, before us. And some of it was passed down by what they did, and some by what they couldn't do. Here's what I mean. They lived inside of culture that asked them to overgive, overfunction, prove their worth through exhaustion and accommodating others to be loved. It showed up as people-pleasing, be the good girl, don't speak up, don't take up too much space, don't say no, and stay small to stay safe. And they probably did it without realizing it. You see, our mothers and grandmothers and many generations of women before them modeled what they had been taught. And then naturally, we watched it, we witnessed it, we absorbed it into our own behaviors, our own self-image, our own people-pleasing, and our own making ourselves small. So what I'm trying to say is that you and I modeled these ways of being because we learned how to be a woman by watching them. And now, decades later, we are running our businesses through patterns that we never consciously chose. And this is something we take into consideration in my work with the women who want to scale to 7 figures with their time and freedom back. And obviously, this isn't about blaming your mother or my mother. It's not actually about our own mothers necessarily, but it's about the collective mother, right? And it's certainly not about pointing fingers at the women who came before us, right? It's just about understanding where you inherited some of your behaviors that are, if I can just say this, likely sabotaging some of your growth or just your growth, your business growth, right? And I also want to say this. You may have had a deeply loving and supportive mother, right? And you may still carry all of these patterns because they don't only come from our individual mothers. Like I said, they come from the collective, from culture, from what we saw on TV, from lineage, from just witnessing women, school teachers, women at your religious organization, right? Just all around us, the magazines, the books, the movies we watch as children, and basically from every woman who shaped us along the way. Now, let me show you what this actually looks like inside of your business, because the mother wound shows up in what I believe to be 4 very specific ways. And you may recognize all 4 in how you run your business, or you may only recognize 1 in your behaviors, but let's get into it. The first one that I see is the overfunctioner. Okay. How does it show up in your business? Well, it's when you do too much for too many people for too long. You take on what isn't yours to work on or to carry, right? Perhaps it's your team's emotional state or your client's problems, or maybe the family logistics. You are the one who holds it all together. And you inherited this from a woman who held it all together, because if she didn't, no one would, right? Does this ring a bell for you? The second is the accommodator. It's when you shape yourself to fit what others need, right? More than what you need, right? So in your business, it can show up like you discount when you really shouldn't, and they're not even asking you to discount, right? Maybe you accept the meeting when you don't have time, or maybe it's outside of work hours, or you say yes when you mean no. And you inherited this from a woman who learned that being agreeable and being accommodating kept her safe, or kept her loved, or kept her feeling useful and worthy, right? Maybe that lands on your heart. And then the third is what we're going to call the worth through exhaustion pattern, right? And perhaps you believe somewhere deep inside that you have to work hard, you have to be super busy, or you have to be tired to deserve the money, the success, the downtime. For many of my clients in the beginning of our work, it looks like ease feels uncomfortable for them. Like the idea that spaciousness, lots of spaciousness on your calendar, or lots of downtime feels like you're being lazy, or you start feeling guilty about it. I can't tell you how often I run across this. But it's not really about you. It's the fact that you inherited this from a woman who only got to rest when she had completely depleted herself, right? She took care of everybody else's needs first, and she wasn't even on her own to-do list. And at the end of the day, after taking care of everybody else's requests and obligations and needs and the kids and dinner and laundry, and if she had a job, that, she didn't have time or the energy to focus on what she wanted or what she needed. And this is so, so common. It's insidious. And I see it every day in our culture, still today. And this is what we're praised for as women, right? Just look at all the Mother's Day cards in the Hallmark aisle. It's all about, we love you because you are so selfless and you do so much for us, Mom, right? You're the most selfless woman, right? Selfless, meaning you're not even here for yourself. And so I want you to just look at how that shows up in your business, maybe even in your life, right? And the fourth one is what I'm going to call the white knuckler, right? It's where you hold everything yourself because you don't trust that anybody else will hold it as carefully, right? So you know the saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I know that some women say this with a smile, but it actually really bothers me, if I have to be honest with you. It's, this whole idea of it's to be, it's up to me. It's when you believe somehow that if you let go, it will all fall apart. So what do? You do it all. You white knuckle. And it's something that you inherited from a woman who had to white knuckle because there was no one to share the weight, the responsibility, the load, the obligation. And I'm going to just let that one sink in. And now I want you to connect this to your business, because these patterns aren't just personal. Well, if you're a woman in the world, especially a mother, it is also a deeply personal thing. But these 4 ways of being also have direct consequences in your business revenues, right? The overfunctioner is not going to be able to scale her business because she will not delegate the things that need to be delegated. The accommodator is not going to scale her business because she's discounting, she's over-delivering, and it's eating into her own profitability or margins or whatever you want to call it. The worth through exhaustion woman can't scale because she will burn out before the business gets there. That's why when you say to somebody who's, doing the worth through exhaustion thing, let's scale to 7 figures, she's like, oh no, I will burn out. I'm already stretched and overwhelmed. I will absolutely not be able to make it. And finally, the white knuckler is not going to be able to scale because she will not let anyone else do what needs to be done, right? And every single one of these patterns has what I'm going to call this ceiling baked into it. And no strategy in the world will lift that ceiling until the pattern underneath is shifted. First, we got to name it, and then we've got to shift it. And this is why so many women hit the same revenue level again and again and again and can't figure out why. It's because they're building a business on top of an inherited pattern or series of patterns that are designed for survival as a woman. I know I'm going there, right? But it's not designed for scaling a business to 7 figures with freedom and time off. And we've got to work on this. This is inner work, my friend. This is why I build in so much inner work into the program, because you can get the strategy, you can get the formula, but if underneath you have this overfunctioning, white-knuckling, people-pleasing, good girl approach to life, if it doesn't get addressed, then you won't be able to take the actions that will scale your business. So let's talk now about what actually moves you out of this, because you don't break these patterns through willpower. The patterns are older than your willpower. They are deeply lodged into your subconscious. And as you've heard me say before, 95% of your actions come from your subconscious. So what do? Well, there are actually 3 things that work. The first one is to name the pattern as it is happening, like in real time. The moment that you notice yourself maybe overfunctioning, or you're accommodating somebody, even though it goes against your needs and your preferences, or you're people pleasing, or you're white knuckling, or you're putting somebody else's requests and obligations and needs before what you want, before your obligations to yourself, to your goals, to what you know you need to do, I just ask you to stop and ask yourself this: whose pattern is this? Is it mine? Am I people pleasing because that's who I am? Or did I inherit it from the culture? Did I witness it in childhood? Was my mother like this? Was my teacher like that? Was my aunt like this? Did I witness that on TV? So that question alone is what's going to create a gap. And that gap is the beginning of what we can call choice, right? And so name it in the moment. Is this mine? The second is to choose differently in small, repeated moments. You don't break a generational pattern in just one big decision. You break it in 100 small, tiny decisions, right? And this is what I teach my bold hearts. It shows up in the email that you don't apologize in. Or I can't tell you how many times when I do these big events with hundreds and hundreds of people, a woman will come up to the mic and she'll apologize. So many of them do, right? So whether it's in an email or up at the microphone, this is where you stop saying sorry when there is actually nothing to be sorry about. Or the meeting that you don't say yes to when it's not what you want. These little micro decisions, right? Like the price that you don't discount, or the scope creep that you don't agree to without revising the payment agreement. A micro decision can look like the task that you don't take back from your team saying, you know what, I can do this better and faster than if they did it. So you see, each small choice is what rewires the inheritance of the mother wound. It's like these micro rebellious moments where you say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not for me. Okay. So first you name it, and then these repeated micro decisions. And the third is to get witnessed by women who are doing this inner work too. What I've discovered is that these inherited patterns get really strong when you're in isolation. And they get loosened in community of others doing this work together. This is why community is not optional for the kind of work that we're talking about. Community is necessary. And this is what the Bold Heart container is built around. Right? Strategy plus the inner work plus the community of women breaking the same patterns at the same time. And I want to tell you what's on the other side of this work, because there is another side, right? When you do this work, something very specific happens. This is when you stop running your business through people pleasing and you start running it through choice. You stop overfunctioning. You start leading your team instead of being led by your team. You stop accommodating clients in an overgiving way, and you start setting higher standards and stronger boundaries with them, but basically, really, with everybody in your life. On the other side, you stop earning your worth in people's eyes through exhaustion. And instead, you start receiving from a business that runs without burning you out, where you can get out of the day-to-day operations of your business and focus on only the things you like to do and are good at. On the other side of doing this work, you stop white knuckling and instead you start trusting. You start trusting yourself, your team, your systems. You start trusting your business, your life. This is the ultimate leverage in your business. And that's when you let go of having to do everything yourself. And all of this is impossible to access while you have the inherited patterns of the mother wound running the show. And this is why it's one of the deepest layers of the work that we do. And it's also why the women who do this work don't just build different businesses, they build different lives. I really want you to think deeper about this over the next few days. How is all of this showing up in your own business? And at what cost? Journal about this, right? Write this down if you can. How is this showing up in my business? And at what cost? Think about this as you're making dinner tonight, because this is the game changer that very few, if any, business mentors will tell you about. And it's also why other things you've tried haven't worked. Okay? And before I close, I want to say something to you directly. If anything in this episode landed in your body, or if you recognized a pattern, or if you felt like the weight of this inheritance, of this cultural upbringing, I want you to know something. I just want to say to you that there is nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're just carrying something that was given to you by women who were doing their best with how they were raised and reared and socialized and bred, right? This is a culture problem, not a women problem. And now you get to choose what you pass on, how you show up in your business, in your life. And this is what we also want to model for our daughters and sons and partners. And the fact that you can now see the pattern is the beginning of you getting free from it. This work is not about leaving your mother behind. It's about leaving behind the cultural conditioning that doesn't serve who you are becoming, a 7-figure business owner who has freedom. Now, if you're listening and you're recognizing these patterns in yourself and how you show up in your business, and you want a real conversation about how to begin shifting them alongside the business strategy, that is exactly what a business audit 60-minute session with me is for. Now, you may know that I offer a small handful every month at no charge for my loyal podcast listeners. Here's how it works. You apply at boldheart.com/call, CALL, and you're just going to answer a few questions ahead of time. And then, once you're accepted, I will come prepared ahead of time, and together we will look at what's actually running your business. We'll look at where you are the current bottleneck, what your current strategy is, and the pattern underneath. We will establish the gap from where you are now in your business and where you want to be. And then we map out together your own personalized 7-figure roadmap. We do this together so you have massive clarity. And if you have any questions about how we support you in doing this within Bold Heart, you can ask me any questions about my signature program. I want you to have as a roadmap and get clarity on why it's not working and what to do to make it work. So you can apply for your very own business audit at boldheart.com/call. And I'm also going to put the link in the show notes. My dear sister, here's what I want you to take away with you today. You are not just running a business, you are also running an inherited way of being that doesn't necessarily benefit you. And the moment you can see it, you can begin to choose differently. One small moment at a time, one small choice at a time. Until the woman running your business is the woman that you choose to become, not the one that you inherited from culture. Thank you for being here with me through this conversation. Next time, we're talking about the hiring framework that will help you scale with more ease. I will see you next time. I'm sending you so much love.